Hi everybody, it's Tanya and welcome to today's video. So in today's video I'm going to talk to you all about books that I'm currently in the middle of. So some of them I am actually actively reading and some of them are currently on hold, so I'm not actively reading them, but I do want to finish them and I do want to get back to them one day. So I'm not planning on DNFing them. It's just that you will see how many books I'm currently reading and you will understand that like it's not possible for me to pick up these books now, but I do want to finish. Some of them I didn't like on the first read and I want to give them another chance. I want to give them another read and try and read them again, so hopefully I will like them better the second time around. Maybe I will understand them better the second time around, but before that I would need to do some research on them. So with no further ado, let's begin. We will start with the books that are currently on hold, that currently I'm not actively reading. The first book is Лето Господне by Ivan Shmylov, so God's Summer, if you translate the title like word to word, God's Summer. This book started as a buddy read, but then both of us got kind of busy with our own like things, and so the buddy read stopped, and so I also stopped reading this book. I really do want to finish it. I stopped it like very beginning, so I'm really not far into this. I've only read like introduction and a few stories because it's a novel, but it's kind of split into short stories. So far it has been more like a collection of stories from life of this one little boy from one Russian gentry family of the beginning of the 20th century, living like somewhere like around Moscow. Ivan Shmylov is an author whom I want to explore more of. He had a very difficult life, but also an interesting one. Like if I can find a good biography about him, I also really want to read that, because I read the introduction and the introduction was so interesting about him. He really had a difficult life because he also lived when the revolution happened, and his son, with whom he was very close, in his family, it kind of so happened that always children were closest to their fathers and they were not very close with their mothers. So it was the same situation for Ivan Shmylov and his father, and it was the same situation for him and his son. Like he was very close with his son, but then his son, because he was an officer for like in Russian kind of imperial army, after the revolution happened, he was of course arrested by the Red Army and he was killed, he was murdered. But this fact was kept from Ivan Shmylov, from his father, so they were just telling him that, oh, he's somewhere in prison, or he's just in prison. So nobody told him that his son was actually dead, and then he learned it by accident, absolutely by accident. And then after that he realized that he is not coming back to Russia. At that time he was living with Bunin in France, like he was friends with Ivan Bunin, and so Bunin's family, they kind of invited him to stay with them for like some time. And yeah, after it was in France that he learned that his son was murdered, and he realized that he is not coming back to Russia. He was also a very religious person, like he comes from a religious family, and you can see it in this book as well, because this book is narrated from a perspective of a very young boy. I don't know how old he is, maybe 5 years old, like 5-6 years old, so very young. And it's just a look at the life of a very religious and traditional Russian gentry family. Look at the servants who were also very religious. Look at the traditions, lifestyle, religious celebrations that they had at that time. Like it's just like a few short stories that I have read. Obviously I read very little, so I don't really know much about the novel, but yeah, so far it was like kind of a slice of life from this life of this gentry family. It was very interesting to read, and I really want to finish it. I really want to complete it. And he was quite a prolific writer, actually. He has written quite a few books and novellas as well, and I think he also has some short stories. He started writing actually when he was very young, but his young writings were really not successful. They were not accepted very well, and then he came back to writing in his 40s. After like all the tantrums of his life, he started writing again in his 40s, and he's got Summer. And he also has like a novella, I think it's called like A Man from a Restaurant. Do I have this novella here? Yeah, I have this novella in this book. So it's called A Man from a Restaurant. So it was kind of his, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of his like first novellas that he wrote in his 40s, and it was very well accepted. Everybody, critics and other writers, really appreciated his writing, and then he picked up writing again. And so God Summer was also written in his late life. He was very close to receiving the Nobel Prize as well. He was nominated, but later the committee decided to give the prize to Bunin, to Ivan Bunin, so other Russian writer. But he was that close. He was that close to receiving the Nobel Prize in Literature. So yeah, I definitely need to read more of Ivan Shmylov. I definitely want to explore more of him. I for sure need to finish this book. It's a very heartwarming experience. Like what I have read so far, it has been so heartwarming. I'm sure I'm going to love this book. His language is a little bit hard, like even for me, kind of to not understand, but yeah, I kind of have to think, because he uses old words, and he uses like this talk of simple people, because like obviously there are a lot of servants in this book, servants from this family, and they use this like kind of, I don't know, very simple old kind of language, which we don't really use now. So I need to kind of, you know, I need to, it takes some of my brain power to get into the writing and to not understand, but like, yeah, just get into it, get into the flow with his writing. But yeah, it's an interesting experience. Definitely want to finish this book, and I really want to finish it. And then the other book, which also started as a budgie read, and I feel like both of us, we just were not getting along with it, because it wasn't what we expected it to be, I guess. I personally just really didn't know what to make of it. So it's Binogi. We started it as a budgie read with KG Books, and yeah, the stories here, I don't know how to understand them. From what I read in the introduction, it's stories for children. Like Binogi is, I guess, translated as stories for youth, something like that. But these stories, like, they're so strange. They're so strange. And I just, for the life of me, I don't know, like, what to make of them. If there is, like, some kind of meaning behind all of that, or maybe there is no meaning. I'm just very confused. And so, yeah, we decided to kind of put it down for the time being. I do want to finish it. I do want to give it another try. But yeah, currently it's on hold. Then another book is Tale of Gilgamesh. I started reading it by myself, and like, it's not a big book. It actually also split into like 3 kind of sections. The book is split into 3 sections because Tale of Gilgamesh was being written in a long period of time. It was written and then rewritten. It was copied and copied by students who were like learning how to write in cuneiform. The epic was constantly evolving throughout a long period of time, like a few centuries, and that's why we have like 3 versions of it now. We have the earliest Sumerian version, which is considered the first kind of fictional story ever written that kind of survived till our day. And then we have an official version which came later on and it was, I think, in Akkadian language. And then there are like also kind of short kind of hymns or kind of short stories that are also attached to this epic. So we have like 3 parts of the Epic of Gilgamesh. I almost finished like the official part of it, but yeah, I actually quite enjoyed it. I found it quite interesting. Like, I cannot say that like it's a super gripping experience, but it's interesting, and just the fact that it's the first story ever written that survived like till our time makes it very interesting. Like, don't you want to try and read something that people read like 2000 years, not even, no, like long more than 2000, like 4000 years ago? And that's why I started reading it. But yeah, need to finish it. And then another book which you have seen in my previous video, mid-year freak out tag, which if you haven't seen, I will link it up here. You know that I didn't enjoy this book. So this is The Leopard by Giuseppe Tomasi di Lampedusa. Also started it as a buddy read, but really couldn't get into it. Want to give it another try, want to start it from the very beginning. It's a short book, it's not a big book, it's like 200 pages, so really like I can finish it, but yeah, I wasn't very much getting along with the writing and the story, but I want to give it another try. Also, this copy is beautiful, so I have to give it another try and at least finish it. Then we have Madame Bovary, which is also my budget read with Risha from For the Love of Classics. All the booktubers I mentioned linked down below. I think Risha almost finished it. She's like 100, the last time we talked she was like 100 pages from the end, and she was really enjoying it. I am still in the beginning. It's not that I wasn't enjoying it, but again, like, other books came up and I just kind of put it on hold. I was really interested when I was reading it, but yeah, I just kind of put it, and for some reason never picked it up. So yeah, need to come back to Madame Bovary. And now off to the books that I'm currently like trying to actively read and like actively get through, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. And also, you know, it's the Ancients-a-thon still going on, so I'm trying to read some like ancient books as well. But yeah, so this will be some longer books which I'm trying to finish currently. So the first one is 100 Years of Solitude. You have also seen me talk about this book. Yeah, I think that choosing this book for a slow budget read was probably a mistake, because a few people commented that this book is actually better to be read fast. And now I see what they mean, because like as soon as I kind of get into the swing of it and I stop, and then it's difficult to get back into like that kind of reading mood of this book. Like, if you read it non-stop, you're kind of constantly on this wave, and you know all the characters and you kind of understand what's going on, but then a lot of characters here have very similar names, and as soon as you put it down, at least like in my experience, as soon as I put it down, and if I pick it up like after a few days, I've already kind of a little bit maybe forgotten what was going on, and so like I'm out of this mood of this, I don't know. But yeah, maybe I just trying to say that I think probably I think I agree with you. This book is probably better to be read fast rather than slowly, and kind of you can think about it later, like after you finish this book, but not while you're reading it. I think reading it slowly was a mistake. Currently I'm like halfway through, but also I can't say like I'm getting along with this very much, which is a shame, because I really was I was so convinced that I was going to love it. I was really convinced that I was going to love it. I mean, I still might love it by the end of the book, by the time I finish it, but currently I'm struggling with it. A new book that I started this Monday is In the First Circle by Alexander Solzhenitsyn. I obviously have a Russian copy. I'm reading it in Russian. Just started, just like a very few chapters in. Also I budgeted with Katie Books because we put down the Binogi and we're like, okay, let's read In the First Circle, because like both of us really enjoyed The Cancer Ward. He read the Gulag Archipelago, which by the way he has a review of, so I will link his review down below. It's a good review, so we'll link his review down below. he read the Gulag Archipelago and he liked it as well. So we thought like, okay, since we know that we like Solzhenitsyn, let's read Solzhenitsyn. So we picked up In the First Circle now. I am already like really enjoying it so far. It starts like almost from the very beginning. We are like in the prison, but it's like a special prison for very educated people. So they are in prison, but they're also at the same time working for the government. All of the people in this prison, all of the people in this camp, they are very educated. They are professors, they're engineers, and so they work on this like kind of radio technology. And I think kind of one of the people here is studying voice and what makes voice unique, and kind of the science behind the voice on the phone, like how phone changes the voice, something like that. Like I said, I'm not very far into this book, but yeah, currently it's like that. So they're just studying radio, and we have just met like our two main protagonists. One of them is Rubin, and one of them is Nerzhin. So Nerzhin is an engineer, and Rubin is a philolog, a person who studies languages basically. Both of them have been through Second World War. Both of them were arrested after the war and sent to the camp, like accused of betrayal of the country and sent to the camps. So yeah, this is like kind of the beginning of the book so far. But I'm already like really enjoying the writing. I really liked Solzhenitsyn's writing in The Cancer Ward. Another interesting thing about this book is that he has already quoted from Dante Alighieri's The Divine Comedy, and actually the title of the book, In the First Circle, it comes from allegory comparison to Dante Alighieri's Hell from the Divine Comedy. That's kind of what I kind of so far know. It's set in here. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting that like he is referencing other books, and he has also, like, Rubin recommended Hemingway recently to Nerzhin. So yeah, he is kind of mentioning some writers and other literature works, which I find interesting and satisfying. So yeah, currently reading, and I am really enjoying it so far. Then of course I'm also currently reading The Idiot by Dostoevsky. I've also talked about it a lot. I don't read it every day, so like I'm still in the middle of it, but I hope to, yeah, I need to kind of get shopping. I need to get shopping with this book, and I need to finish it before July, because in July we are about to start A Suitable Boy, and that's a chunky book. But I'm enjoying it so far, really liking it. I think the best thing that I like in here are probably the characters and all the drama. It's very dramatic. It's quite dramatic, this book, and their behavior is quite dramatic, but I am enjoying it. And also all the kind of discussions that they're having in this book. Like, it started with the discussion of and guillotine, French thing that happened during French Revolution, like guillotine, when they chopped off the head of people. And so our main character here, he witnessed that, and he was talking about it to some other characters in the book. So that was an interesting discussion. And then yeah, they discuss like a lot of religious topics here, and they discuss some like moral topics in here, so that's interesting to read, for me at least. So yeah, I'm enjoying The Idiot currently. And then also recently, like, I just a few like chapters into this book, I started Middlemarch. I don't know if I will be like able to like actually finish it with all the other books, and then starting The Suitable Boy. So I don't know if like I will be able to read it, but I'm trying, so hopefully. But I don't know. However, I really do want to read more by George Eliot. You know that I really liked Silas Marner last year. I was a little bit nervous starting Middlemarch, because I remember that with Silas Marner it took me like half a book to get used to her writing. I just really couldn't get used to it. It was like maybe thick too thick for me. I started just like the first few chapters with the Middlemarch, but I feel like I'm going to be okay. I feel like I'm going to be okay. I didn't have this like difficulties reading it so far. Yeah, I have high hopes for the Middlemarch, and I know that it's many people's favorite book by George Eliot, and even many people's favorite classic, like Victorian classic. So I have very high hopes for this. Also, I have this Norton Critical Edition, which I was actually disappointed with when I received it. Because look how thin this book is. When you look, for example, at Penguin English Library, you can see that this book is actually very chunky. And why do you think that is? It's because in this edition the paper is very thin. It's very thin, and also the font is very small. So yeah, I was really like, I didn't expect this edition to be like that. Like my other Norton editions, like for example Huckleberry Finn, thick, paper is good, font is with quite good spacing and very clear. And so I was unpleasantly surprised with this edition. I think I will be reading the book from here, and then from here I will just read the additional information. So this part of it is like additional information to the novel. So yeah, I think I will just read additional information from here, but the novel I will be reading from here. Then I'm also currently reading the Anit by Virgil. It's the third book in like this ancient epics series, also translated by Robert Fagles. I've been enjoying Anit from the very beginning. When like Odyssey, for example, and the Iliad, they took me some time getting used to. In the Iliad, I really liked the first book, like the first chapter, and then like till like book 10 I really didn't enjoy it very much, because there were like one book of like just listing all the names, and then there were like all the battles, but then it was like he killed him in this manner, and then he killed him in this manner, and then somebody else killed somebody else in that manner, and it was just like kind of listing of who killed whom in what manner, and I cannot say that I enjoyed it. But then book 10, for some reason, I think because there was like a lot of fighting of IGCS and then Ajax and like people whom I knew and I kind of cared about, so that's why I kind of enjoyed the 10th book. And then from the 10th book, and in particular from the book 16, which is where Patroclus comes into play, from like book 16 I really liked the Iliad, because there also Achilles appears finally. So yeah, after book 16, even like after book 10 you can tell, because there were already more of Achilles, I really started enjoying the Iliad. But like the first part of it was taking me some time. Same with the Odyssey. I was kind of, the first few books really like were not my cup of tea, but then from the book 9 in the Odyssey I really got into it. And with the Anit, I got into it from the first book. From the first book. The thing that I like, which was kind of a pleasant surprise to me, I didn't know before, and when I learned it when I was reading the Aeneid, that they are actually Trojans. So like the Aeneas, he is Trojan. And when I was reading the Iliad, I was cheering for the Trojans actually. I felt so bad for them, because of just one stupid prince who cannot control himself. Now the whole city has to be ruined. I felt so bad for the Trojans, and I really liked like the relationship between Hector and his wife, Hector and his parents, and like just his father. They all were such lovely people, and my heart was just broken. My heart was broken because I know that they lose. And then the second book in the Aeneid is the part with this, you know, I think it's not a spoiler. I think everybody knows that Greeks built this huge horse, and that's like how they how they get to win. So the second book, it's the second book in the Anit, not the 10th, not the 15th, it's the second. And even the first book was very interesting. So yeah, I'm enjoying Anit from the very beginning. The fourth book was so just heart-wrenching with Dido. Those of you who have read Dido, I felt so bad for her as well. I understand that it's also, of course, her fault what happens to her. It's also her, but also it's not that much her fault, it's like God's fault. I felt very bad for the woman. I felt very bad for the woman. So yes, the Anit is giving me all the feels and all the emotions from the very start. So I'm really enjoying this one. I've already decided that I want to read all three of them in like different translations. I'm loving this like ancient epics so far. They're just, oh, my feels. Okay. Next book. Next book which I'm currently in the middle of is Dubliners. Well, not middle. We started it a few days back. We were just talking on Discord with like members of the book club, and why did we decide to read Dubliners? Something came up, I forgot. We just decided to read Dubliners suddenly. And because the shorts, it's like a collection of James Joyce's short stories about Dublin. And because all of the stories here are very short, they're like 10 pages, like 7 pages, they're really short. And I thought, okay, 5 pages cannot hurt you. Plus 5 pages a day, it will not hurt you. So we decided to read it, and we started like a few days back. We have already read the first three short stories, and they are like very symbolic. Like they're not straightforward. He's not telling you what he is trying to tell straightforwardly. You kind of have to dissect it. You have to decrypt his short stories, and so that's why, because you have to decrypt them, it has been a very interesting like kind of budget read, and just having like discussing them with other people, and then reading other people's analysis on the internet, and then like talking about it. It has been lovely. It has been really interesting. So yeah, I'm really currently enjoying Dubliners. His writing is beautiful, like really beautiful. The first story so far has been all of us favorite so far. Yeah, the writing is really beautiful. The first short story was everybody's favorite because it's like, it's, I would say, the most mysterious one, and like the most dreamlike one, and it was really like just interesting. The thing that he wrote it in his early 20s. He wrote this book in his early 20s, and I'm like, how do people do that? Like, we are struggling to decrypt it, but he had to write it. Like, he had to actually come up with all of it. So interesting. James Joyce was a very bright person. He was a very intelligent person, even in his early 20s. So yeah, really very interesting. I already have his portrait of the artist as a young man, so I will be reading that after we finish Dubliners. But yeah, I'm happy that we finally picked this book up, because it has been sitting on my shelf for like very long time, like a year and a half, I think, and I wasn't picking it up. And then finally, so yeah, we decided we should read it, and I'm like, yes, I have the copy, let's read it. And I'm glad that we decided to do it. Yeah, it's really, I'm really enjoying it. And the last book which I'm currently reading and trying to finish is The Dead Secret by Wilkie Collins. I'm currently on book 3, chapter 1. I'm reading it for one of my like kind of reading vlogs kind of project, which is connected to the Count of Monte Cristo, where I'm trying like to read books which I think would be similar in a way to the Count of Monte Cristo, and see if they're like actually similar to the Count of Monte Cristo. So this is one of the books which I'm reading for that project. I like his writing. I like Wilkie Collins's writing. It's beautiful and it's also atmospheric, and it gives you feels. I feel like he was a really good writer. He's a great writer. And also currently in this book, like, there isn't like, the mystery isn't very prominent, because like it's still like, well, not very beginning, but like that, not very far into the book still. So mystery here, it's like, you know about the mystery, but it hasn't taken the main stage currently. So I'm still waiting for that, but even while I'm waiting for that, it's still interesting, you know, and enjoyable to read. So yeah, so far enjoying Wilkie Collins's The Dead Secret. So there you have it, guys, all the books I'm currently in the middle of. Some of them I am reading, some of them I am not currently, but I want to finish and come back to them one day. Let me know in the comments if you have this problem of starting books and not finishing them and putting them on hold. If you struggle with it, let me know what books you are currently reading, what books you are enjoying, if you're liking them, maybe you're not liking them very much. So let me know in the comment section down below. And for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a very good day. I hope you're staying safe. I hope you're reading good books and enjoying them. And I will see you soon in my next videos. Thank you so much for watching.